Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to this Agent Intelligent episode. We're exploring everything kind of AI agent, the future of automatization, everything in Web3, Web2. But the cool things here is that we're talking with strong thought leaders and actually hands-on agent builders. They actually like think about all this space and kind of like they are driving the narrative all around. So I'm Francesco. I'm leading developer relation at Consensys, but I'm also contributing to MotherDAO. We're building social reputation for agents. And today we're diving deep into kind of like the technology and the vision of kind of like John Rush. He's building tons of interesting agents running different kind of like platform from scratch from solo entrepreneur and much more. So we will listening a bunch of things that are actually interesting and we kind of like will tell the story. So John, is a pleasure and honor to have you here. Finally, we made it happen. And you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Francesca. Uh, I'm building AI agents for 3 years, and before that, I've been building SaaS and apps and VC-backed startups, basically everything you could imagine. I even built NFT marketplaces and
This is so cool.
B2B, B2C. So, but now I'm on a mission to build agents, the whole set of agents, so the solopreneurs like me and like many others could hire those agents and go in the market and compete with bigger teams and actually outcompete bigger teams because I actually believe that talented founder with a good set of agents is the biggest power right now on the market. At least
Agree. Yeah.
I'm proving that myself. So I am kind of my own user. So I built all the tools for myself and I used agents for myself and I show how it works for me. And only when it works, I launch it to the public.
This is so cool. And I think it's also like it's quite fascinating, like all the story. And I 100% agree with you. Like, I mean, we have already some example. Y Incubator pushing the latest kind of like batch was mentioning like we have a part of like solo entrepreneur, but the most interesting part is that 90% of like 25% of the company they are incubating, they have mostly around 90% of like vibe coded and AI generated code. And also mentioning I think like he was mentioning that until 2030 we will start seeing like unicorns by solo founders, and it's actually very interesting because lean teams with those tooling will actually be more aggressive into the markets, and I think it's 100% true. And also like your story, how you kind of like build this tooling from scratch that are useful for yourself and kind of like going on market when these are working is also very inspiring that you want to kind of like build in public, share with also like the community. And I think like I'm one of the person because I think like a couple of was it 1 year and a half ago I also asked myself how I can actually start automatizing like blogs, SEO stuff. And I think I find this kind of like SEO boat. That's why we kind of like connected and was very inspiring because you were not just building one tool. I think like you had this suite of like 20, 25 automation
Yeah.
tooling that was impressive. But you want to kind of like give us a little bit like the story, you know, how you started thinking about building all this kind of automation. What were the problem that you had even yourself? Do you say, okay, I need to do this, I need to build this for myself?
Yeah. So being VC back founder, I always had large teams and I had enough funding to hire people. So whenever I had a problem, I would throw people at the problem and I would build a department for the content, department for sales, department for development and everything. And later I realized that basically if you hire people, uh, the quality of their work is so much lower compared to founders, but you can't have 20 founders in the company because that's also impossible, right? So at the start everybody is doing a good job, but eventually uh, it's hard to motivate people who are not owning the business. And then I thought, like, how can I solve it? And I had two ideas. So one idea was to give equity to everybody, but it turned out that even if you give equity to everybody, uh, non-entrepreneurial people, they don't find that super exciting, so they end up losing motivation anyways. And then my next idea was, well, let's say that the best company is the one that's run by founders, but then you need people. How do you fix the people problem? And I thought like the best way to fix the people problem is to create artificial people, and that's where I thought
Yes.
like I should create AI agents that will act as my employees, and I can scale them infinitely. They're always happy at work. They work 24/7, and they're always motivated, and I can keep improving them. And that was my vision back in 2022. So I wanted to build an organization where it's me and only agents. Of course, that's great dream, but not really possible. I thought I have to come as close as possible. Like some things you need people for. For
Yeah.
example, in development, you can build agents for coding, but you still need a coder to bring it to production, right? But in some areas, such as SEO, for example, I saw clear path for 100% automation, and that's where I started. Like the first AI agent I built, or it was the second. The first one was for coding, and the second one was for SEO. It's called SEO Bot, and it's uh, it was kind of so obvious for me that I can automate it. That I started with it, and I
Mhm.
automated that in a year. So I had a friend, and we did it actually together with a friend, and it worked out really well, and people loved it. And I shared how it works. I shared demos on Twitter, and it went viral. And then I realized that it works. Other people find it useful,
Mhm.
and I managed to automate the whole thing, the whole little department I had. So before that, I had people doing the job,
Mhm.
and now I didn't need the people, so I just swapped 100%. And then I went
Amazing.
further, and I took
Yeah.
the next task, the next task, the next task, and here I am, basically automating every job one by one. But again, it's a I have to be kind of honest that the quality of work produced by AI agents is lower than the quality of work produced by the best people,
Mm,
by
mm,
the people who are really qualified.
mm, mm,
But
mm.
then the other thing is that, are you in a position to hire all the best people? If yes, well, then you hire them. But most startups aren't in that position. Like I wasn't in that position myself,
Yes.
so I could
Even
hire
retain.
like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, is there not enough good people on the market, right? And then you hire somebody who is just starting out, and if you compare that, like a junior or non-experienced human versus AI agent, uh often cases AI agent does better job.
100%. Yeah, I think also the real first reliability, but also like retaining like strong people in the market. That's probably like something.
Yeah,
And sometimes people are driven by missions and not by kind of like the especially on early stage startups, right? So I think that's a good point. I wonder, like like you being around, building this kind of like automation from the start. Like I assume the tooling also improved to build this kind of like automation systems. Do you see like a big improvement? Like I definitely want to jump off. Like I think the next one, let's jump on some of those agents that you build. But I just want to get an eye level answer around. Do you feel kind of the industry is booming in terms of tooling for kind of like could be no coders too? Because I see kind of now NN8, a bunch of like kind of like companies for automation. But back in the days we always had stuff like Zapier for mini automation. But do you feel these
yeah,
tooling are progressing well, or is kind of like a slow things, or there are too many things on the market, and people are starting to get confused? I think like you get the high picture because you've been involved in such a long time.
yeah, yeah. I think I tried every tool that exists, and I keep trying them every day when they appear. And there are a lot of them in YC batches. Like they
Mm,
have a lot of such companies. I wouldn't say that I'm happy with the progress on the tooling,
mhm.
because the way the game works in an overhyped industry is that everybody sells opportunity, and everybody tries to maximize the way this opportunity looks like so that they can raise more money. And all the companies, all the startups that raised a lot of money on this tooling, They all work more on the marketing and on the perception rather than actual tooling. And also, they all work more on simple cases to broaden their audience so that everybody can try, rather than on cases where you're actually building a serious agent. So there are no good tools on the market to build complex agents. There are a
Mhm.
lot of tools on the market to build simple agents. So the first one, of course, was Zapier, and then you can use N8, Make.com. So these are like the workflow automations, and you can actually build agents out of workflows too, right? So the
Yeah.
next level is you have this kind of second generation agent builders, which are more oriented towards the chat based
Mhm.
interface, etc. So there are a lot of them, like Agent AI and then Lindy
Mhm.
AI. So there, there are many, and they're similar, and they let you build AI apps, basically, or AI agents. But again, they are also prompt based. So basically, they're similar to custom GPTs produced by OpenAI back in the day, but they're more powerful. But still, they're covering simple use cases. But I think it's a very good place to start. So the way I do it myself is that I use Zapier first usually,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I make the first simple agent with Zapier, which is not even an agent; it's more like a workflow that
Mhm.
I feed with information I start, and then it produces the output or it does the work on the background. And I like that because I control what's happening and I can watch everything that's happening and tune it, but it's still me kind of running it. And then
Mm.
once I iterate on that enough and I like it, I move to the next level and I build something that can run itself so that the users can use it. Because in Zapier
Mhm.
case, you can't really give it to the users because
Yes.
it's Zapier is not supposed to be used that way. It's kind of an internal tool thing.
Yes.
So then usually I take what I built in Zapier and I connect that into this no code AI tool builder thing that I put them together and users can use it. So
Mhm.
that's where I see a more real world scenario of the usage. But it's still far from where I want, but it's a next step. And then when I see that working, I go and hard code the whole thing using
Oh, yeah.
just JavaScript and Python and just
Yeah.
regular kind of coding stacks. Why do I move to the regular coding stacks from these agent stacks? Mostly because the agent is software too. Like
Mm.
the agent itself is just a little part of the software you build.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
if you need a lot of other things, the regular things like user profiles, search, payment, and a lot of regular stuff. And it's much easier to build the regular stuff using regular code because you can generate that code using AI too.
Mhm.
And also when it comes to agents, uh, on in theory, it always looks like you can use these builders for agents, but
Mhm.
whenever you get into more complicated area where you want to make your agent smarter and kind of cooler, then suddenly you have to write a lot of custom code for that. And I really care a lot about UX. I really care a lot about the wow effect and all those things. So in my case, I have to control every single bit of the interface and the program.
Of
So
course.
that's kind of like the three-step solution. So you start with Zapier and you create workflows and you
Yeah.
just test them and you be yourself as an interface that communicates to the users and passes the information to Zapier, and you're the broker,
Yes.
right? That's the best
100%.
way to start. And then the second step is you go to specifically um, agent oriented builders,
Yes.
uh, and then
Yes.
you test more or less real world
Mhm.
scenario. And
Mhm.
then third step, you just hard code the whole thing. You can use Cursor, Windsurf, whatever. There are a lot of
Yes.
tools to do that, but you have to know how to code. Even
Yes.
if you generate code with AI, but you have to understand the coding
Oh yeah,
because
100%.
it's hard to do that if you don't. Like
Yeah,
that's
you need
kind
to
of
have basics. Yeah, of
my
course.
process.
Yeah, and I mean, what you're saying also around complexity, also like more AI you go, also like sometimes you have less flexibility. Like that's why also like I agree, like I like also like building my own source code, obviously like with partially kind of AI generated, but understanding that more more focus on code, you have also like more flexibility compared to some kind of out of the box AI generation specifically. One things before like you showing us some of those agents. So like I assume also like specialized agent versus generalized agent. We're going in the direction of specialized agents, right?
100%, because
Hmm.
you know, for generalized agents to function well, the AI itself has to be uh, kind of an AGI, so or ACI. So it has to be way smarter than it is now, because AI makes so many mistakes, so
Hmm.
many. It's very smart, but it makes too many mistakes. And when you build specialized agent, your job is to actually make sure that when AI makes mistakes, you catch the mistakes and you do something about it. And in specialized agents, you know what to expect. So you can actually hard code all the uh, things around catching those errors,
Hmm.
and you can do something around that. With generalized agents, that's impossible because there are millions of things
Yeah.
people can use it for, right? And you you can't really do any hard coding.
Hmm.
Like in my case, for example, take SEO bot. It's the agent for blog articles. It's
Hmm.
very simple. It does only one thing, right? It just generates blog articles. It also does research and linking, but the main job there is the blog articles. And there are
Let's
like
actually see
hundred.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can actually share that. So the main job is to create the blog articles. So here's
Yeah,
one
but the
of
cool
them,
thing is
how it
that
works.
you already kind of like pre-warm up, like it's not just generation content, you have also the integration, right? I think this is
Yeah,
also very
exactly,
cool.
exactly. So, but if you look deeper into it, it does the research on keywords. Like you can see here, it finds the master keyword, and then it tests keywords for traffic, etc., etc. So if it was a general agent, how would it test the keyword?
Hmm.
Like it has to actually
Yeah.
sign up
Yeah.
for a vendor that provides API behind the paywall, where you can get the traffic for the keyword, and that's kind of impossible, right?
Agree. Yeah. That's really
So
cool.
after that, it will push the article to your Framer or Webflow website. How would general agent do that? Like nobody would. Um,
Yeah.
so
Agree.
you would have to copy and paste. But even more than that, for example, there are corner cases, like people want to have only the links which are of a certain domain rating. Like you don't want to link to websites with low domain rating.
Mm.
And that's very, very small kind of thing that we know, and we hard coded into the agent, and we told the agent to do that, right? And he does it. So eventually the agent does a really good job because we
Mm.
know what SEO is, we know how to write good articles, and we have been teaching this agent to do that really,
Mm.
really well
Yes.
for like 3 years. And we're going to keep doing that forever. And now imagine the competition from a general agent that has just broad general knowledge about SEO. It doesn't have any tight connections to CMS, to APIs, etc. So the quality difference here will be huge, right?
Yes.
Even if the general agent improves, but we're going to improve too. So I think it's it, it's like the same story as with software. Like back in the day, the software started in a way that companies like Microsoft built everything. They
Hmm.
built a huge kind of system with 100 apps, and or with gigantic software that can do everything.
Mm.
But then startups came in and they started building one software at a time, and they did it so much better that we realized that if somebody specialized on one project only, they build way better project. So I think same going to be happening for agents. I think agents will decouple. I think
Yes.
even niched agents will become even more niche. For example, in SEO space, there are blog articles, there's on-page SEO, there's a lot of stuff, and I think the best products will focus on one thing only. Like one agent will do only blog articles, one will do only on-page SEO for regular pages, etc. Because the market will reward the agent that does only one thing really, really well.
Agree. Yeah, yeah, yeah. First, really well, but also like I feel you will get also like more value to specialized agents. The only question here is that how you see like this kind of like agent to agent collaboration, because I assume that in order to expand on, for example, an SEO bot here, you in the future you want to also like adding new functionality, but not specifically building this functionality internally. You can even think about, okay, let's actually see what other agents are bringing value to people. Let's actually add this to my kind of like SEO bot
Yeah.
offering, right? Well, what's your thought about agent to agent collaboration? Yeah.
Yeah, there are good initiatives on this topic. For example, MCP is interesting, but what's even more interesting is agent to agent from Google, and that one is really interesting. And I think that one is going to be bigger than MCP in my opinion because it's more thought through. Basically, the idea of agent to agent is that uh, agents can talk to each other, and instead of making API calls with JSONs, etc., they will kind of use regular language, and one agent might need something from other agent, and they can just talk like humans, and every agent will have its agent card where it represents itself, kind of like a CV for a human.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
you go to the marketplace and you screen all the agent cards, and you see, all right, this agent does what I needed to do, and then you start talking to that agent. I think that's the future. I think the agents will
Hmm.
be very small and they will talk to each other. And since AI allows us to use natural language for that, the whole thing becomes even easier. Like the common protocol is very easy to implement in this case.
That's yeah, that's I agree with that. And what are like, do you see like challenges around kind of maybe the evolution on of the agent in terms of that?
I guess the main challenge there is how you pay. Like for
Hmm.
example, take SEO bot. Let's say it goes to the marketplace for agents, and then it starts talking to several agents. But those agents should benefit from this work, right? So they have to get some fraction of the payment that SEO bot received. So I
Hmm.
think the distribution of the payment is the main bottleneck or the main problem here,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
probably solvable through marketplaces where I know probably I would kind of pay. So I'm as an owner of this agent. At the end of the month, I would receive a bill from all the other agents, and I pay fraction of my earnings to all those agents. So probably that. But nobody has done anything on this, to be
Hmm.
honest, and that's kind of
Agree.
strange.
Yeah.
So there is kind of zero effort yet, and uh, even looking at agent to agent or MCP, they don't even have that in the spec. They haven't even thought about it. So
Huh.
that's interesting that
That's very cool.
nobody has thought about this. So people build all those things as if all agents are free, but they're not free, right? They
Yeah,
want to make
no, it
money.
makes sense. I mean, also like infrastructure wise, is also getting more expensive, right? If you think about like what I mean, people starting actually to automatize kind of like their life, their businesses, it started to also to get like a monthly expense that is
Oh
not
yeah,
just that's also like
that is
I
very
assume that.
expensive.
Yeah, because you need to also have this kind of like sustainable business at the beginning, right? Because if you're thinking about, I know people with like 10 different kind of like GPTs, 30, $40 a month, and
Mhm.
you're getting actually like true expensive, you
I
cumulative.
pay more for AI than for humans. So I'm
That's
probably one of the first humans running something that's large enough who spends more on AI agents than I spend on human labor. And I
that's
spend
great.
way more.
Interesting. And you want to run us through a little bit like the portfolio of kind of tooling that you think like will help and will create value for the people in the community, because there are different people hearing us, I think, from agent builders, so different kind of like builder tooling, but also a user that I think will benefit. Like, give us like be like what are kind of like the top like maybe like five tooling apart like SEO Bot that you think people should know, and also I want to also understand kind of like the reason why you build that in the first place, like the reasoning, right? Because we have all we don't have infinite kind of like time, right? Also like it's very interesting that you're saying, okay, I'm building this 20 tooling and I want to have a solid kind of like solo entrepreneur like portfolio of things that will benefit people. But also my reason is that how you define what is useful. Like, is it useful for you and then you build from there? Is it useful because you see a lot of feedbacks on for example, on Twitter, or kind of like on socials, or is it just you something like you want to build for fun and then you find it, okay, this is something that is super useful for me and that's why I want to build further.
Yeah, so I think it's really hard to predict what people actually want and what people actually need.
Mm,
So I
agree.
tried
Yeah.
that for decades and I failed just like many others.
Mhm.
And sometimes you are lucky and you actually uh, predict something that people need, but I think it's just luck rather than your ability, because often
Mhm.
the same people don't manage to predict the thing the next
Agree.
time.
Yeah.
So
And sometimes it's
that's why
also distribution. Like, people have amazing product, but the distribution maybe is not the right time or is not getting to the right eyes. And it doesn't mean, because
yeah.
sometimes I also like felt, oh, the product is not worth it, but maybe it was the distribution side that changed, right? That's so
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. It's so many little things that can go wrong, and you have to minimize that. And for me, to minimize that, I thought I have to be my own audience. So
Hmm.
I'm my own customer, and I'm my own perfect customer, not just one of the customers, but perfect customer.
Hmm.
It means that who's my customer? My customer is a solopreneur who is not VC backed, who is probably having a full time job or part time job and has
Hmm.
little time left during the week to build side hustle, side projects. And that's kind of the perfect persona. And I am the persona myself, because when I started doing it, I had my VC back startup that was eating most of my time, and then I had
Hmm.
some time left to do this. So I wasn't even doing this full time.
Hmm.
And then what do I need to be able to actually run this stuff, having limited time? And I realized that the building part is less important. So basically, you can build slow, you can build fast. It doesn't matter. Like, imagine you
Hmm.
started today, not a year ago, right? Like there's no need to hurry actually when you build stuff, because like nobody expects anything from you. Like, it's not like
Mm,
someone is waiting for you, right? So take
yes.
your time. But again, the thing that can't wait is distribution, because it's
Yes.
not like you will build your tool, bring to the market, and suddenly it will sell itself, right? So if you haven't done
Agree.
SEO,
Hmm.
then you have no traffic, and if you start doing it today, you
Mm,
will not have traffic tomorrow. You need to wait for many months or a year,
yes.
right?
Good
Same with
point.
social media. If you don't have followers, you can't get them overnight. So marketing and distribution actually benefits from effort and time put into it, and from the hurry. And that's why I thought I have to automate that first. So I have to automate the whole distribution for me, so that I can just relax and build my things, and then the distribution agents distribute all my products for me, right?
Mm,
And that's
mm,
why I went on the path of building SEO bot for SEO. Then I built this other tool like the Listing Bot, which is a pretty cool agent that lists on. I'll show it. It
this is so
lists
cool. I just want to
my
give
product.
help everyone, like, basically John built here a portfolio of different kind of like tooling, like from scratch, and it's actually quite impressive, because like you're kind of like one person, fully kind of like also autonomous, and this is also the beauty. Like, yeah, it's impressive, really. Congrats on that.
Yeah, thanks. So I built this listing bot, and the way I came up with the idea was very simple. So I look at analytics of my first tool, and I was seeing traffic coming from directories.
Mhm.
And I thought, all right, interesting. I should then list my tool on more directories if directories bring traffic.
Mm,
And I started doing that, and I had more traffic, more traffic, more traffic. And I felt like, all right, so then so many people don't know about this kind of opportunity to get pretty much free traffic almost instantly from directories. And then I built this tool because first I want the tool to be used by others, but also I knew I will build more tools myself, and I don't want to be sitting and listing on them on directories all day long because I have to build 20, 30 tools and it's a lot of time. So I built Listen Bot, and that's how basically I came up with every idea I have. Like I saw an opportunity to save time for myself and to have some benefit. Mostly, the most important benefit for me was distribution. And then I built a tool that solves this on autopilot so that I can just check it off and it's running. I don't touch it. I just go do the other thing. I build stuff or I invent new stuff or I improve UX and things like that.
this is so cool. So meaning also like it's also self-maintaining, right? Because I'm assuming that the business model here is that you're running some kind of like, monthly fee for like monthly kind of similar to a SaaS model, and then basically you double down on actually investing this revenue to build the
Yeah,
new tooling.
yeah, exactly. So the money I earn on the first tool, I use to build the next tool, and then the other one. But to be honest, I haven't really spent a lot of money on building tools because uh, I don't hire people,
Hmm.
so I don't pay almost anyone. And most of my tools I build either myself or with co-makers. So I find a developer
Hmm.
who is good at building, but never had a success with startups because of lack of distribution skills. And
Hmm.
then we team up and build it together. So we own it 50-50, and there's no salary. So we share the revenue or we share the profits, right? So
Nice.
basically there's no upfront cost for me. So I'm in a position basically where I build these tools and I will keep building many more. And the investment is zero for all
Mm,
this,
mm,
and
so cool.
it
Yeah,
is it's kind of a dream job I have. So I just build things I
you love. Yeah.
enjoy and I use myself, and there is no risk involved. There is no funds to be raised. There are no investors to be
The sweet
pleased.
spot. Yeah.
Or yeah, I actually think that will be something that we see pretty often in the future. So this is I'm the first one who does it.
Mm,
There's
mm,
nobody else in the world doing that on the scale I do right now,
mm, mm, mm,
and it works really well for me. And I speak about this publicly a lot. And I think at some point people will realize that, wow, this is actually a good idea. And I
mm,
should probably do the same, because if you have good intuition for ideas and you have good taste and you have good distribution,
mhm, mhm,
then for you going and raising money from investors and hiring people is not a good idea, uh,
mm, mm,
because there are like millions of developers in the world who are dreaming of building something great and they have no idea what to build,
mhm.
and just go find them.
Yes.
Right.
But I feel also like people realize that now with all kind of like the vibe coding side is, the road to MVP is much faster.
Yeah,
You
of course
can
you have to do
one
yourself.
other. But what
Yeah.
does it mean? This is that the distribution that people sometimes say, oh, I keep it to do it after, maybe after 1 year I raise, is becoming earlier. And people
Mhm.
realize that this is the difficult part. Like,
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's the law of the market, right? If something isn't scarce, then it's easy. Like in the past, the code was scarce because only developers could write it. Now code can be written by AI, so it's not scarce anymore. Right? Some
mhm,
part of the code is still scarce, and the last 5% of the product or 10%, you need a real developer to come in and make sure there's no security
yes.
hole, or like it's kind of solid product, right? But that's just small part, and we see people launching the whole. I saw people raising VC funding on a project they vibe coded. I
Yeah,
personally know people like
of
that.
course. Yeah, but even
Right?
YC, right, was mentioning that 25%
Yeah,
of the startup were 90% running on AI generated code.
exactly. And they have one startup that's 100% AI generated code. I
That's
don't
crazy.
know
Yeah.
which one, but I saw that there's one
Yeah.
that's fully AI. So, and that's why obviously now distribution is becoming even more important. But I have this very strange take on this topic. Like, from one hand, distribution is the king. From one hand,
Hmm.
but from other hand, the best products still win, and making great product is so hard, and
Hmm.
it's even harder now because the expectations on the market are so high compared to where we were 3 years ago. So now the typical user of SaaS or AI agent has crazy high expectations,
Hmm.
and it's real difficult to fulfill those expectations. So I think that there are two ways to succeed. So one, you have crazy great distribution, and you just launch products there. Like, you will succeed because you have distribution and people will use it because they love your brand. But it's slippery slope because eventually people don't like the product, they will leave eventually.
Hmm.
So the churn will be high. And then there's the other option where your product is so good that people just can't stop themselves from recommending it to their friend. They feel like they found such a great
Gem.
asset,
Yeah.
yeah, that they want to be useful. Like, they're actually proud of knowing this tool and using this tool, and they share it with the others. And if you get there, then your distribution goes not through you, but through your users,
Yes.
and
Yes.
the churn is near zero, and the growth is huge because it's viral. Like, people recommend people, and those people recommend the other people, so it goes really, really fast. Of course, if you also have distribution, then you accelerate the growth. But I think too many people think that distribution alone is enough and is a solution for all problems. But I think the great products are still winning.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, and finding gems is also like hard, but also like the referral and like the communication to peers is super important. I'm also conscious of time here, John. Like, we have one question from the audience here. I think you kind of like mentioned, how can I build an AI-based product or startup when I'm not a coder and doesn't have much financial
Yeah.
help? Like, I mean, testing the market, testing things, building things. What is your recommendation here?
I think before you think, how can I build, you should think, how can I know what to build? Because that's more important question. Like, the quality of idea defines everything. So you have to make sure you have good idea. And you have no idea whether your idea is good or not, right? You have to ask somebody, and you have to ask many people. So the step by step kind of walkthrough is you come up with idea, and you test idea to validate whether the idea is good. And there are many ways to validate the idea. So one way is to pay influencers to tweet that, and
Mhm.
you link to the wait list, and you see whether people sign up for the wait list. You can run paid ads on the wait list and see people sign up for the wait list. You can just DM people with honest
Feedback.
proposition saying that, look, I'm about to build this idea, but I don't know whether I should build or not. What do you think? Do you think I should? Like, be honest, and people might say, yeah, you should, or they might say you shouldn't. So that's why first validate the idea. So once you validate the idea, then try to figure out the smallest possible MVP that you can build, because if you don't know how to code, it's really hard to build something complicated, and it's possible to build something that simple. So you can use Lovable or Bolt or Replit or Windsurf, um, and you can actually produce working, functioning product. if the product is simple. But
Mm.
how to make it simple, that's really hard because usually you have a lot of ideas and features and you want to put them in, but you should try to simplify it. So it's possible. I've seen people doing the whole thing. I've seen people ideating, validating, scoping down to just one or two features,
Hmm.
using
Hmm.
Lovable to build the whole product, launching it, getting paid users, getting VC funding into it, hiring a developer, going farther. I've seen this happening, so it's possible, but you have to be disciplined on every step.
I agree, I agree. Yeah, obviously, like when you have like, only like yourself, you want to push yourself also having a clear map, having a clear plan, coordinating, having internal like milestones. I think that's super good. And thanks, Manish, for answer a question that we have like 10 minutes, John. I want to ask you like, so what will become obsolete in this case? Like, assuming right now, Google search engine is moving to kind of like, what does it mean? I assume in the next 6 months, what will mean having original content? Maybe AI generated blog will have less impact to actually like, and I see mostly of developers and peers of mine, they're starting really to GPT and kind of like developing on kind of like on GPT kind of code, meaning also the search engine will kind of like be maybe replaced by what is seen in GPT kind of like chat to chat format. Where will you see things that will become more obsolete? Like where should people invest time in building products? That's also like a good question because you're seeing kind of different things happening right now.
Yeah. So I would not bet on anything disappearing.
Hmm.
Like, I think the whole mindset should be a bit different. So don't try to predict things that will go away because, first, it's hard to predict. Second, you underestimate the power of habits.
Hmm. Hmm.
So even if
Right.
something doesn't make sense at all and there's some other, like, people are still cutting grass with a hand knife, like it's like people do things that we've been doing hundreds of years ago, while there are tools to do that 100 times easier now. So that's why the habits are strong, and I don't think Google will disappear. I don't think so. Not tomorrow, not in 2 years,
Hmm.
not in
Hmm.
5 years, not in 10 years. I
Hmm.
don't think so, because it's so embedded into Chrome. It's so embedded into the way people are used to do things, and also older people don't change as fast as younger people.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's why, like, number one, quit the whole notion of this will go away, this will be
Yeah.
obsolete, and so like you have to bet on the idea that everything will still exist,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But then you should think what will come into the play, like what will be the new thing in the world that will appear. And if you manage to predict that well, you can build something early for that demand or for that market or for that niche. For example, look at my example.
Hmm.
In early in 2018, I have
Hmm.
predicted the bootstrapper and solopreneur rise. I
Hmm.
knew that the VC model is gonna be struggling soon, and a lot of people will start doing that on their own terms with small team, with no VC funding. So that's why I started building tools for this audience before the audience was even there, right? Like it was super small, and now the audience is huge. So
Hmm.
now people who want to
Hmm.
use AI agents, there are a lot of people like that, millions of them. So that's why, like, try to predict what will be new in the world
Hmm.
and build something for that. But don't try to predict that something will disappear, because there's no value. Like, all right, let's say SEO will disappear. So what? Like, what can you do about that?
Hmm.
Think instead of that. Think what will be the other way people will find information.
Hmm.
Like besides SEO, like they will use chats, they will use voice chats and things like that. When it comes to search engine optimization specifically, I think that all chat products are still using search. Like if you look at
Hmm.
all chat products, they have search button where it goes to Google or Bing and searches for things, right? It means that if you optimize your content for search on Google, there's really high chance you will appear in ChatGPT too, because ChatGPT will use Google for search internally, right? Uh, that's why there's no special magic to do. Like a lot of people ask, what should I do to optimize for ChatGPT search? Like the same thing you would do to optimize for Google search, exactly the
Yes.
same.
Yes, I mean it's I really like this kind of like lesson learned here. Other things that you are kind of like you think, okay, this is kind of another misconception that people think. Another kind of thing is the lesson learned that you want to
Yeah.
kind of like either tell people, hey, build this or like do this instead because this is something that will have saved me tons of time. I think that's you have tons of experience here you can
A
share.
lot of people think that everything is already built and there are no ideas left. So
Mm-hmm.
people think so.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am with like hundreds of ideas and I build them one by one and they are all working out and I have 100 more to build and actually I have if you give me a task of producing ideas I will produce millions of them. So there are a lot of things to build. There are a lot. Like there has never been a time like now, at least during my lifetime, it has never been the case that you can build so many things. So basically, uh, you can think of any action
Mm-hmm.
done by humans in personal life,
Mm-hmm.
in the life as a parent, in the life as a employee, as a worker, as a friend, as a
Mm-hmm.
sports person, as somebody who is sick, etc. So just think of a person in a special occasion, and then think about the problems of the person and automate solutions for those problems. And that's how you
Cool.
can come up with a lot of ideas. While
Yes.
people think that there are no ideas, like everything is built, and
This
I
is
don't know what to.
interesting. Maybe next you could build some kind of like, generating idea or something
I
out of
thought
this.
about it. I thought about it, and I should because it sounds easy for me, but it doesn't sound easy for others. So
What
maybe I should build a tool.
like just to close it up, like for the people hearing us, like especially kind of developers, maybe with less distribution, like what are kind of like the low-hanging fruit idea that you're thinking about? Okay, you should test out, build this. I mean, of course, like that you
Yeah,
want to mention in public, right? That you think like, oh, these are some idea that are super underestimated. This is something that you can build in less than a week,
yeah.
or even a weekend. Like, what are kind of like maybe five suggestions?
Well, you can build an app for dog owners so that they could write everything about the dog, and then
Mm,
the app would recommend you how to deal with the dog and how to teach the dog. And so basically you show everything that's happening with the dog, and app guides you on training
mm,
the dog, feeding the dog, and if the dog is sick, app helps you to understand what's the problem.
mhm,
Because I have animals and I've been using AI to do everything with my animals, and recently they were sick and I used I didn't go to vet, and I managed to cure my animals just with AI, right?
mm,
But it's not that convenient to do it in ChatGPT because you have to do a lot of context, etc. If there was an app that's more specific for this case, perfect. Same for human health. Build an app where I input my biomarkers and my blood tests and everything, and
mhm.
then I do it regularly every 6 months, and then the app uh, tells me how things are going, and also kind of becomes my personal doctor, like personal AI
Yeah, that's
doctor,
very cool.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm, and you can go on like on these type of examples, right, where you
Nice.
just take something that's high value, you pay a lot of money for it now, and you just use AI to automate it.
Yes,
And since people pay a lot of money for it, people will pay for the app too. Like I would pay
agree.
for these two apps right now if they
Yes.
existed. But they exist, but they often exist on the market, and every market is different. For example, there's one in the US, and I'm now in Turkey,
Mhm.
and there's no app in Turkey, but these apps have to have some connection to local laboratories for blood testing, so that they understand the formats and etc. So it's better to build them per country because then they're better functioning. All right,
Yeah, I agree.
it's
Vertical wise.
3 a.m. Yeah.
I know, yeah, we need to jump. But I mean, John, thank you so much. And I think also depends on the vertical, and also like I have so many kind of like still open questions. We maybe need a part two, like mobile versus web. There is a lot of different things. But I really
Yeah.
appreciate. I think a lot of people hearing us also like they get a lot of inspiration by you, like in building products, testing products. Also, like I think it's also ideas generated by your own needs is something. And I also agree with you. Like the next kind of like unicorns will be actually like made by also like one person show, especially when you can
Yeah.
automatize and building like the majority of the task run by yourself. Awesome, John. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you.
everyone listening and asking question. And hopefully, like we see each other like in some of the next conferences, and we will organize a part two for everyone listening. And please let us know if this is valuable. If you have other questions, we will also send out some link from John, kind of like portfolio of like applications. And thanks everyone for listening this afternoon or morning or wherever you are located. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much,
All
everyone.
right. Thanks for having